Fat Tuesday is in the rearview mirror as Lent for many begins, plus another journal entry from a Canalville villager here on Constant Procession. The start of the Lenten season is upon those with the mark of ashes from Ash Wednesday that signals the beginning of new ways for entering this renewal and journey of faith. But before this, there's another journal entry from a villager faring from the same town that is the centerpiece location in my book, The Very Fine Light. For those of you just subscribing to these podcasts, here is a bit of background about this book. The Very Fine Light is a contemporary novel with Christian themes about a village on the verge of bankruptcy, the mayor with a secret, and Randy, a fun-loving co-worker who's always in trouble for telling it like it is. And now for the mini-story from the Canalville journals. To the best of my knowledge, it has not made the local papers or social media sites. And now I quote from this journal, quote, "There was a period of time after college when I stayed on in West Paris to intern at a high-end financial firm. I had studied accounting in college and was very eager to learn from the best, so, as you can imagine, I felt like I was in heaven to be able to intern at the regional office of one of the largest and most prestigious investment firms in the country, heck, back at that time, even in the world. I had worked my way through school, and in addition to a few college loans, I had gotten several work-study grants, doing all those crazy jobs on college campuses no one else wanted. Heck, I even had to run an old film projector for one of the eccentric professors who made his grad students watch old foreign movies. I had to learn how to thread the film through one of those old-timey 16mm film projectors. What a job! Anyways, my internship was amazing. I especially loved working at the international desk, where the time between day and night were blurred. Now, I worked with the group that started on the second shift in order to accommodate the Far East. Sometimes I got off at a normal time during the day in order to come in early the next day for the trading work from Europe. What a wonderful opportunity for me. West Paris was so glamorous compared to Canalville. I secretly determined to remain in West Paris, assuming I would be picking up a permanent job for the following fall. Never did I expect to come back and settle down in Canalville, but that was before my time-shifting event. That experience did not have anything to do with working in a different time zone for stock trades. No, it was literally a time-shifting experience. I was able to time-shift everyone else's reality and bend time. Here's what happened. Chomley Big Bucks was the highest roller at the investment firm. Man, he made the Wolf on Wall Street look like a piker. Anyways, he and the guys and gals on his core team really made quite an impression on me, a lowly intern, wet behind the ears, trying to soak up everything I could about how they did their jobs. And wow, the fun we had after hours, too. These were the kings and queens of being super smart in that highly competitive and fast-paced money-making machine. I determined early on I wanted to be just like them. One evening, as I strolled into the break room, I saw everyone standing around in a circle looking down at the floor. The looks on their faces said everything. Something bad had happened. I guess being around those investors had rubbed off on me pretty well, because before I even looked at the floor where they had circled and were staring, inside my mind, I worried if perhaps all the money I had just invested in a boatload of penny stocks they talked me into buying had just tanked. Ouch, my life savings, my future startup money. That's all I could think about. But then I looked down to see what these fast-talking icons of smart who owned expensive watches, condos, and foreign sports cars were looking at. There on the floor was Chomley, writhing about and holding his chest. He was clearly in distress. He was definitely in pain. "What happened?" I heard someone ask. "I don't know. We were just getting espresso from the machine, and he groaned and just fell down." I expected someone would get down and check his forehead or something. To my surprise, silence. Everyone just stood there around Chomley, even the hard-charging queen of the Eastern trading desk, who always looked like she knew what to do in any situation. They all just stood around looking down at him, the king of the place. They all seemed paralyzed. "Has anyone called 911? I squeaked out, hoping this wouldn't end my career there. Yeah, good idea," the guy who always wore tailored suits said. "I'll go call," 3 people said almost in unison, and they bolted out of the room. Things suddenly seemed very lonely. Just a few of us remained. Finally, remembering something from a TV show I once saw, I got down on my hands and knees and gently loosened Chomley's collar. "I've had some nursing experience," one of the newer members of the team said, and she got down beside me and asked, "Does anyone know CPR?" Suddenly, several people I didn't recognize came to Chomley's aid. I got out of the way and left, very shaken by the experience. I remember how helpless I felt when they asked about knowing CPR. It's something I should have known since I'd just gotten out of school. Well, at least that's what I felt. But then I started thinking about all those wizards of Wall Street, those crackerjack high rollers I've been looking up to. So self-assured and, well, that self-assurance, now for me, sort of now seemed like arrogance instead. It dawned on me afterwards that none of them did anything. Literally, no one got down or thought to call 911. They didn't do anything to give Chomley some support. And none of them could even do CPR. Well, fortunately for Chomley, whoever those other people were, they helped him until the first responders came. I soured on the whole place after that. I was the only one to at least think to call 911. It made quite an impression on me. I was disappointed in those investors and that they did nothing, just stood there. They may be wizards of smart in their trading work, but not so much in helping someone out who is in real need. Beyond all that, I realized I should have known CPR. I decided to take action and find a class instructing in CPR training. After some searching, this was before the internet, I learned that at the time, only the Red Cross offered CPR classes. They did it once a month and at 6:30 p.m. on the other side of town. I called to register. Among other things, I was told in no uncertain terms by the admin, and don't be late. There's a lot to learn, so if you can't be on time, you'll be turned away, as the first 10 minutes are extremely important. Well, I signed up immediately, though concerned about being able to get to the place on time with summertime's rush hour traffic. I asked in the office if anyone wanted to sign up also. No one responded. This is where the time bending comes up. That summer, all I had to drive was a motor scooter. It was the only source of transportation that I could afford. I remembered those late summer afternoons in West Paris. The sun was so intense, you'd almost melt into the pavement at those downtown stoplights that took so long to turn green. It was very ambitious to think I could get to the training center by 6:30. The traffic that night was thick. At one point I realized I wouldn't make it on time. But since I was cooked in that sweltering heat, I decided, what the heck, I'm going anyways. Maybe the instructor would take pity on me. Well, it was 10 minutes to 7 as I walked into the desolate office building. You know the kind. You can tell when the place is a 9-to-5 office-type environment. It was apparent that even the night cleaner had cleared out. As I walked through the empty hallway, helmet in hand, well, I remember thinking, at least the building was cool. I peeked into the darkened classroom. It was quiet. Was anyone in there? Yes, I could see by the looks on the other classmates' faces that they were pissed, and all of them seemed to be looking at the back of the room. As my eyes got accustomed to what little light was coming in to the room from the half-closed blinds at the back of the room, the instructor looked up at me, fumbling with a strip of 16mm film as she tried to thread it into the mechanisms of an old movie projector. "Do you know how to work a movie projector? We can't start without this darn film," she said with great exasperation in her voice. I remember to this day the feeling that came over me as I realized The class had not started at all. "Yes, I can," I said. "Really?" She actually did not have to say anything. I can still see the expression of relief on her face, too. And so I threaded the projector, and the CPR movie started, and the class began. Time had bended and now stood still in order for me to be able to take the CPR class. My desire to be like those high roller types ended that summer, and I decided to work for myself and to do it back home in Canalville. I was proud when I got my CPR card. Proud for a few reasons. Most importantly, feeling like if a Chomley situation ever happened again, and I was around people like those at the firm I interned at, I would at least have a clue. But also, I was proud that I could bend time. That was a pretty good trick, too. And now, on to the start of the new Easter season. From Carnival or Mardi Gras to the resurrection of Christ on Easter Day, the 40 days of Lent is a time for putting the brakes on living the status quo of each of our daily lives. For many, participating in these 40 days is something you'd much rather like to avoid. Why should one go without? Why should one feel any obligation to have to go to church more than once beyond the times you normally spend going to church? And why make changes to alter the normal problems one has to put up with each and every day? So some background is in order. This season involves a reviewing of the passions of Jesus, and we'll try to view through the Virgin Mary's point of view in an effort to help each one of us in our own participation of this year's Lenten season. And perhaps to considering that the Mother of God had to experience these events may help us to participate more fully this Easter. And of course, the Virgin Mary was following Jesus all throughout his teachings, suffering the injustice that was foisted upon her Son at the end, witnessing his death on the cross, as well as the resurrection, and no doubt was looked to by the apostles for her intimate knowledge of her Son as they groped through the early days of the beginnings of the Christian Church's foundation, which may bring to each of us in our daily Lent journey a sensitivity to how she must have felt as the world gave up Jesus to the powers that were so jealous as to demand from their governing overseers his death. Like Christmas, the Easter season is highlighted by a key moment in the life of Jesus. And while the birthday celebration of Christmas is a universally acknowledged celebration of gift-giving and receiving, the recognition of Jesus on the cross and the otherworldly coming back from death is indeed a rebirth that sometimes gets overshadowed by the experience of Jesus being humiliated and dying, though he was innocent of any wrongdoing that demanded his death. And for some Christians, Easter is not celebrated more overtly than any other Sunday service where the body and blood are shared in a common communion. In the traditional or the apostolic church communities, Easter, Lent, earmark important aspects in the traditional church communities to forgive and forget, to rise above one's petty grievances, to recognize that self-sacrifice and helping one another is worthy of thinking about when viewed through the prism of what Jesus Christ gave by willingly offering himself to death. Since Fat Tuesday, perhaps you have accepted the mantle of going without or not doing something of pleasure for the traditional 40 days of Lent. And to you who have made the requested commitment, congratulations and keep the faith as you continue along your Lenten journey. But for those who are just beginning to contemplate this year's Easter time, but have not quite started their personal journey, don't hesitate to jump right in as we begin observing the Madonna's journey as well. And in this time of Lent, take heart in knowing it's not just you going through this Lent, but rather many individuals trying to get closer to God. To get there, let's begin at the beginning. The Virgin Mary's role in the Passion of Christ is worthy of consideration in that almost from the time of his birth, like any good parent, she concerned herself with the life and health of her newborn son. Coupled with the recognition, after being visited by the strangers from foreign lands who lauded her child, making tangible, making real for the couple, that their son was destined for greatness. Suddenly, and shortly thereafter, Joseph was warned by an angel of the Lord that he must hurry and take his young wife and child rapidly away, lest the baby be killed. And so the stories that remind us of both the life and death of God on earth can yield much more for us as we, like the Madonna, commit ourselves, also in this Lenten season, to trying to get closer to God. This is Nico Steves. I hope you enjoyed this installment. My book can be found using the title, The Very Fine Light, on Amazon.com. Please feel free to contact me at nicosteves.com. That's Nikos Steves, Steves.com. If you like this episode, and for more, share them with friends. This is Nico Steves. Thank you. See you next time.